Welcome to the deep dive. Looking at some pretty unusual circumstances surrounding President Kennedy's assassination in Dallas.
Yeah, right. The core idea seems to be about alleged last-minute changes to security, personnel, protocols, things in Dallas that the source suggests weren't accidental.
Yeah, and that they might have directly, contributed to the outcome. A key figure highlighted is Gerald Bain, who is head of the Secret Service detail. The text really raises questions about his actions.
So, for you listening, our mission here is really to unpack the claims in this specific text. We'll look at the changes it mentions, the implications the source draws from them, basically dissecting this one perspective based only on what we have in front of us.
Okay, let's start with the motorcade itself. The text you sent details several alleged changes that, well, seem pretty odd on the surface. One of the first is the motorcycle escort. Apparently, the plan was for 8 motorcycle cops right around the limo.
Right, close formation.
But the source says 4 got bumped to the back.
Bumped to the back. And the reason given?
Supposedly, the president didn't want to feel crowded. But the source immediately kind of jumps on that, pointing out, well, Kennedy's deceased. He can't exactly confirm that, can he?
Right. So right away, the source flags a detail and questions the official explanation. It highlights you can't verify something attributed to someone who isn't here. Sets a tone, doesn't it?
It really does. Then there's the removal of Secret Service agents from the running boards.
Ah, yes, the agents on the back of the limo.
Exactly. The text says 2 tall agents would normally ride on steps near the rear taillights. They offered close protection and, crucially, might have physically blocked a line of sight from places like the book depository or the Dell Tech's building.
So like a human shield, almost, right there next to him.
Pretty much. But, according to the source, these guys were told to get off.
Just told to step down.
Yeah. And the instruction allegedly came from Washington.
From Washington, not from the agents on the ground or the detail leader in Dallas.
That's what the source claims. Came from Washington, which, the source implies is a big deal, removing that immediate protective layer.
It definitely raises a flag in this narrative. You immediately start asking, well, who in Washington and why?
And that wasn't all, according to this text.
Oh.
The bubble top was also taken off the limo.
The clear protective top.
Yeah. Seems like a pretty significant piece of protective gear to just leave off, especially if there were known threats.
Absolutely. If you combine removing the bubble top and removing the agents from the running boards, from the source's viewpoint, it starts to look like a pattern of stripping away close protection.
Okay, and then the press pool gets rearranged.
The press car. What happened there?
The vehicle with the journalists, the photographers, the ones who'd be documenting everything up close, it got bumped all the way to the back of the line.
Way back. So they wouldn't have a clear view of the president's car.
Seems to be the implication. Limited visual record right around the limo. The source presents it as another deviation, not just some random logistical thing.
Okay, so less escort close by. No agents on the back, no bubble top, press moved away. What else?
This is a really crucial one the text makes. A claim about a last-minute turn onto Elm Street.
The turn into Dealey Plaza.
Right. And the source states, flat out, that after this turn, there was no security detail in the kill zone.
Wow. No security detail in the kill zone. That's a very strong claim.
It is. And if that's accurate, as the source presents it, it points to a catastrophic security failure right where the assassination happened. Using that term kill zone implies it was a recognized danger spot.
And the alleged absence of security there is central to this source's argument that something was deeply wrong.
Building on that, the text also mentions the positioning of police officers along the route.
Okay, what about them?
Apparently, they were told to stand with their backs to the crowd.
Backs to the crowd, facing the motorcade.
Yeah, and the source directly questions the logic, quoting someone asking, "What good is it to have our backs to the crowd? We want to look at the crowd."
I mean, from a basic security perspective, you watch the crowd for threats, don't you? Facing away seems counterintuitive, to say the least.
Highly irregular, the source suggests. Hampered the ability to spot anything suspicious.
Right.
And finally, regarding the immediate area, the source claims the buildings in that kill zone, specifically mentioning the book depository, weren't properly scoured by the Secret Service beforehand.
No proper sweep.
That's the claim. The text really emphasizes that checking buildings overlooking the route is, like, a primary Secret Service responsibility.
And not doing that, especially at the very building the shot supposedly came from, well, that's a major indictment in this narrative, isn't it?
Huge. Okay, so let's shift now to Gerald Bain, the head of the detail. The source positions him as potentially central to all this.
Right, Bain. What does the text say about him specifically?
It highlights this alleged last-minute decision he made to take a vacation.
A vacation right before a presidential trip to a city with known tensions.
Exactly. Then he supposedly comes back to work, but commands security from the safe East Wing in Washington, D.C.
So not on the ground in Dallas.
Correct. And the source makes a point of saying Bain supposedly never left Kennedy's side before, especially on trips seen as dangerous.
So the source presents his absence from Dallas as a significant anomaly. If he was always there for high-risk trips, why not this one? Directing remotely, that feels different.
The source even brings up that Kennedy had reportedly been warned about Dallas, referencing Adlai Stevenson's rough reception there.
Adlai Stevenson, yeah. He was spat on, hit with a sign.
Right. So that context makes Bain's alleged decision to stay in Washington seem even stranger, according to the source. If Dallas was seen as high risk, wouldn't you want the head of security there?
It definitely adds weight to the questions the source is raising about Bain's absence.
And the text goes further. It claims these security changes we've talked about for the motorcycles, the agents off the back, all of it were actually dictated by Bain, from Washington to a guy named Winston Lawson in Dallas.
So Bain is calling the shots on these specific, unusual security arrangements from afar.
That's the direct line of command, the source alleges. It places Bain right at the center of these decisions, even though he wasn't physically present.
Making him the orchestrator, in this view.
And then there's the aftermath for Lawson and Bain. The source highlights what it sees as very different outcomes.
Okay, what happened to them, according to this text?
Well, initially, Lawson was reportedly canned, jobless. But then the story apparently changed. He gets a cushy job with the Department of Defense.
A cushy job after Dallas.
Yeah, and the source even includes a claim that Lawson later allegedly boasted about costing the president his life, which is quite something.
Yeah, that's a shocking allegation if true. And Bain,
initially reported as being on unemployment, then ends up as head of Lyndon Johnson's security detail.
Head of LBJ's detail, after being head of JFK's detail when he was assassinated.
Exactly. The source finds this incredibly suspicious. The contrasting fates, Lawson's alleged turnaround and boast, Bain's prominent new role. It's presented as highly irregular.
It suggests, from this perspective, a lack of accountability or maybe even rewards. Especially that alleged boast from Lawson. That's pretty damning in this narrative.
Definitely. Okay, let's touch on the transfer of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right, after the assassination.
The source says the Dallas police chief, Jesse Curry, wanted to move Oswald secretly at night.
Seems sensible, right? Yeah, minimize risk, keep him secure.
But then, allegedly, a call comes from Washington.
Another call from Washington.
According to the source, yes. And this call instructs Curry not to move him secretly, but to parade him in front of the press, to show him to the public.
Whoa. Change the plan from a secure nighttime transfer to a public spectacle. Why?
Well, the source connects this directly to Jack Ruby.
Ruby shooting Oswald in the police station basement.
Exactly. The source suggests that this instruction from Washington to make the transfer public created the opportunity for Ruby. And it goes further, suggesting Washington needed Oswald dead.
Okay, so that's a huge escalation. The source isn't just talking about security lapses around JFK anymore. It's claiming people in Washington actively wanted Oswald silenced and manipulated the situation to allow Ruby access.
That's the direct link the source makes. Ruby's shooting isn't random. It's framed as a necessary part of a larger plan originating from Washington to prevent Oswald from talking.
So putting this all together, what's the overall conspiracy theory this source is presenting?
Essentially, it argues that while maybe the mob or Cuban exiles or whoever might have been the triggermen on the ground,
The shooters, yeah.
they couldn't have succeeded without these last-minute changes orchestrated within the Secret Service, specifically directed from Washington.
So the Secret Service, or elements within it, deliberately enabled the assassination by weakening security.
That's the core claim. And the source specifically points the finger at Washington, suggesting the agents in Dallas were largely unaware, maybe even heroic after the fact. It distinguishes between leadership and the guys on the ground.
Interesting distinction, and it mentions something about Trump.
Yeah, briefly, it throws in an alleged denial of extra security requested for President Trump as a kind of modern parallel, hinting at maybe an ongoing pattern of concern with insecurity structures.
And motivation. Why would anyone in Washington or the Secret Service leadership want this, according to the source?
It speculates a bit. It mentions Marcello, likely a reference to Carlos Marcello, the mob boss,
Right, the New Orleans mob connection.
suggesting maybe he underwrote the conspiracy using his resources. And it touches on alleged historical links between the mob, CIA, FBI, potentially hindering investigations. The broader motive floated is simply removing the Kennedys from power.
So a combination of organized crime resources and potentially powerful figures wanting the Kennedys gone, facilitated by compromised security.
That seems to be the picture the source paints.
Okay, so just to recap the main points from this specific source for everyone listening, we've got a series of alleged, highly unusual security changes in Dallas.
Right. The motorcycle escort reduced, agents pulled from the limo, no bubble top, press moved back, that supposed last-minute turn onto Elm Street with no security, police facing the wrong way, and key buildings allegedly not searched.
And the source puts Gerald Bain, the Secret Service head, kind of at the center of orchestrating these changes remotely from Washington, despite his unusual absence from Dallas itself.
Yeah, and it highlights the weirdly contrasting fates of Bain and Winston Lawson afterwards as suspicious.
Plus, the claim that Washington interfered with Oswald's transfer, making it public and thus enabling Jack Ruby to shoot him, supposedly to silence him.
It's a lot. And it's crucial, again, for you listening, to remember this entire deep dive is exploring the perspective presented in this specific text. It challenges a lot of the common narratives and puts forward its own theories centered on deliberate Secret Service manipulation.
Absolutely. We're just unpacking the claims within this document.
So, maybe a final thought for you to mull over. Considering this whole sequence of alleged coincidences and really odd security arrangements laid out by the source, what new questions does that raise for you about Dallas, about the different layers of potential influence? And based just on this information, what else might you be curious to look into? Good questions to ponder. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.